apologize. I was still yakking elsewhere when they made the announcement. But thank you so much to the McHenry County GOP for having us. Thank you for our great hosts, Frank, Karen, and Joe, Elle Gerson, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't realize there were this many sane people in Illinois. No, I'm serious, you know. I see what they're pushing, and I'm saying I'm shocked. I didn't realize this existed. Well, hopefully people are just waking up to what's going on, guys. And it is great to see this many people gathering this early in the process, because I think, you know, what could possibly continue to go wrong? I told you, you know. But no, it's funny, we were talking in the other room, I was saying, everything they said Trump would do is happening right now, right? We're watching that. I mean, we've been on the brink of World War III for quite some time, but it keeps escalating. We're being threatened by Iran at the UN. I mean, think about that. Last time they threatened, when we had a real president, they threatened us. It didn't work out so well for him. I think the guy that was the architect of all of the IED attacks that maimed and killed so many Americans took a missile through the face. It's a little different, right? You had the same thing with the Taliban. There were no attacks on Americans because my father showed the head of the Taliban, much to the media's chagrin, right? He invited them to Camp David. How dare you? I don't know. We've been in a war for 20 years. Maybe we should figure it out, right? Showed him a picture of his house. Why do you show me this? Just understand. Enough. And they get it, right? The reality is, when you're dealing with people like this, when you're dealing with predators, what do they understand? Force, resolve. You know, they look at Joe Biden falling off of a stage, and they're not exactly intimidated.
It's like the Ramos, too.
Right? The leader of the free world can get lost on an 8x14 stage. No, you see that, right? Someone said it best the other day. Said basically, you know, 5 minutes into a speech, it's already butchered, but the meds wear off.
Yeah.
And he turns into a Roomba. Bouncing off the stage, they would turn there, we don't know where to go. And you see the panic set in, right? It's like a deer in the headlights. See the panic set in, and then he goes right to the hand stage. But there's no one there. And I got fact-checked by this a little while ago on Facebook. They go, no. He was pointing to the crowd with an open hand. I go, the only problem, I screenshot it because I got the fact check. I screenshot the picture. The crowd is there, folks. It doesn't matter, but that shows you sort of what we're up against, right? I talk about, you know, the difference in the treatment. You have evidence of corruption that makes, let's call it Watergate, look like kindergarten. And it doesn't matter, right? I always do imagine it was the Don Jr. laptop from hell. No, I have a feeling it would be a slightly different response. Right? And I've had some fun with it. I take it a little bit personally because I too would have been nice, right? I mean, in my next life, I want to be a Democrat because I could go sell out our country for $1 billion in China and live happily ever after. It seems like, you know, because I understand Hunter is a very accomplished businessman. We've seen that from the videos. Right? You know, listen, China is many things. They're not stupid, but they're not also like us, right? There's no like diversity, equity, and inclusion component of like Chinese government investing. They weren't sitting there in a room and like, you know what we're missing? We're grossly underrepresented with crackheads. We need more crackheads managing Chinese government portfolios. We got just the guy, Hunter. We would probably do that in the United States right now, right? That's how freaking ridiculous. We're not serious anymore, right? We are that stupid. China doesn't do that, unless of course they're buying you, which they obviously were, right? As we are on the brink of World War III, no one's asking. Do you think the Biden administration is making decisions possibly because someone has more information? Of course, it's the most plausible, and it's literally the only, it was like Wuhan lab, right? Do you think maybe, I don't know, do you think maybe the virus came from the lab that studies the exact virus in question? Like, in the town where the virus originated, that we've been funding gain-of-function research in for that. Do you think maybe, just maybe it came from, no. It came from 4 feet outside of that lab. It was, of course it came from the lab. Like, what are you talking about? You don't have to be a scientist to believe that. You have to have an IQ above 0. But it didn't matter if you were in academia, if you were a doctor, if you were a virologist, and you said, I don't know, maybe it came from the lab. You're out. Your funding's cut off. Because science isn't science anymore, right? In the last couple of years, I've learned there are 4,976 genders. I apologize. 4,999. There's been 2 more created since I got on this stage. We're not serious people. The adults were supposed to be back in charge, right? The adults are back in charge. We were told this, right? And yet I hear them speak, and I don't feel like they're adults or they're in charge. I mean, Joe Biden's not even in charge of his own faculties, let alone in charge of the world. But you saw what happened with Afghanistan, right? Again, no American deaths for 2 years, the last 2 years of Trump, and magically in about 2 weeks. 13 Americans dead, suicide bombers, and then remember, this was the best one, wasn't it? We got the guys. Right, so you didn't know who it was, you couldn't foresee this coming, and within 12 minutes you were able to get the guys, right? No, turns out they just bombed some farmer. But they knew the media would do their bidding for them, as they have every time. We then got the adults who were back in charge, got on a world stage, our great Secretary of State, who's not qualified to be Secretary of State, but he was the guy that gathered all the 52 signatures from the intelligence community to say that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. I knew it wasn't Russian disinformation because even Hunter Biden didn't say it was Russian disinformation. Even he didn't say it wasn't accurate, he just let our intelligence communities do that. But then we watch the secretary who was bribed with this position, who's making decisions that could again get us into nuclear war with the world's largest nuclear superpower by volume of nuclear warheads. And he got on a stage, and after fighting an enemy for 20 years, with a straight face said that he is shocked, and this is pretty much verbatim, the media will probably fact check me because I put the comma on the wrong spot, but he is shocked and dismayed that the Taliban did not install a more diverse and inclusive. I mean, think about this. These are the serious people that are back. I was like, wait a minute. Like, you mean the people we've been at war with for 20, the guys that put journalists in cages and lit them on fire, the guys that would take homosexuals and throw them off of buildings. You're shocked and dismayed. I mean, maybe if you're dismayed, fine, but you're shocked. You're shocked. You're not a serious person. That they didn't have. You think what? They were going to have the Taliban Trans Coalition. They were going to invite Dylan Mulvaney over, or whatever his name is. He's going to have a seat at the table in the Taliban government. Like really? And then we could talk about the economy. I mean, I'm watching Bidenomics being touted. Yeah, because 2 + 2 = 97 in these morons. But it's shocking. And listen, I get it. my sort of hobby is when I'm not working, like, my happy place is sort of with real Americans, but I also still understand where I come from, and I understand that I am the son of a billionaire from Manhattan. And if I'm at the grocery store with sticker shock, that's a serious problem. No, think about it. I'm not pretending like it's going to change my habits or anything like that, but if I'm like, oh, wow. I told the story earlier about, took two of my boys fishing to Alaska a couple weeks ago. We came back, right before school sort of started up with them. And we're in the airport in Anchorage, and I got McDonald's for me and two young boys, and it was $37. Like, again, if I feel it, how is it that Democrat politicians don't understand that that's crushing middle America? Okay, then you add on to that, not just the inflationary component, but the interest component of that, right? If I buy a new truck, I can buy it all cash. The average American isn't doing that, so they're paying 175% of what the truck probably cost 5 years ago because of inflation, but then they're also paying 3x what they would have on the financing component because they don't have the free cash to be able to buy it outright. That's the hidden cost of some of these things that's not even being talked about. But they keep doing it, because, and it's not because they're stupid. So many people, if you're in this room, like you're into this shit, like it's fine, you're following it. No, but the average person isn't. They're trying to live their American dream. What hasn't been already exported to China? Sorry, China. We have to use the appropriate vernacular. They're struggling. Despite what Joe Biden can say on TV, and the mainstream media lackeys will tell you how great it is, they'll find, they won't even find a number that works because there are none. There's not a single economic metric where we are better off, but what they'll do is they'll change the way the numbers are computed. Right? I was last week. Paul Krugman, right? Nobel laureate economist. He goes, inflation is great. What were the 4 things he took out? We're actually in a great inflation environment. It's down significantly if you take out food, housing, energy, and transportation. Fact check me, please. Please, this is a Nobel laureate economist telling the American people, it's like, how much are the Democrats just paying you to say this? Because literally, the asterisk, it's on there. He shows a chart, it looks like inflation's coming down. He goes, the asterisk is, if you remove food, shelter, transportation, and energy. So if you remove literally everything you need to survive, I don't know. Trans surgeries are down significantly in cost. So America should rejoice. Everything else you're screwed. You're on your own. These aren't serious people. But it doesn't matter because, again, that person that's living for 5 minutes, listening in the background, they're listening to CNN in the background because they think that's actually news. And, that's like, is that true or did you see that on CNN? No, I saw it on CNN. Probably bullshit. They're too busy to trying just to survive, to figure it out. So, it's not our ideas versus their ideas on a level playing field. It's our ideas smothered by big tech, by big social. There's a reason. You Google an issue, a topic, supporting women in need. I give a hard time. Don Jr. They say it every time. I give a speech. Don Jr.'s on coke. I'm like, you got video of the other guy. I'm not exactly low energy, but if I was actually on coke, it would probably be very different. So my dad did the jab with low energy. But then I say something, but again, it's a little ridiculous. Someone with addiction, it's a terrible thing, right? Does not absolve you from selling out your country. Does not absolve you from being a piece of shit. Just stop. That's what you do. But, that's the world in which we live. I mean, we literally just sent ground troops to the Middle East. We haven't been at war in 9 months or so it's time.
Yeah.
Big war, got sick of watching Big Pharma get rich. It's our turn again. We gotta make that happen. And the American people don't want that.
Looks like I picked it up.
I'll do it in this room. I said I would do it before. Raise your hand if Ukraine is the #1 issue for you as a Republican in America. Top 3. Top 10. All right. For the witnesses in the media, I have done this. This is like the 15th time I've done this. Groups from like 200 to about 5,000. One guy, one time, it was a top 10 issue from him. He just happened to be from the Ukraine. Because I asked, where are you from? He goes, Kiev. I go, that's fine. Maybe. So one out of, let's call it 25,000 or so people that I've surveyed in the last year about this issue, it is a top 10 issue for us. Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate, will tell people with a straight face, it is the #1 issue for Republicans in America, and we're going to keep spending your grandchildren's future to support corrupt and broken regimes in Eastern Europe with no actual goal in sight. As long as the money keeps going, the wars will keep going. Right? Yeah, they're not going to ever stop as long as they're getting rich. It's not Zelensky on the front lines. It's some peasants that they'll send out there to die so that they can keep making money. They'll pilfer this. They'll buy another home in the south of France, whatever it may be. They're not really at risk. The women fled the country. They're probably shacked up with some dudes in Western Europe right now. The men will die in cannon fodder, and BlackRock will come over and take over the farmland. We all know where this is going. It's almost too obvious at this point. And again, as long as that money's flowing indefinitely, there's never an incentive to get to the table and actually sort these things out. I know my father was ridiculed mercilessly by the media when he said, I just want all the death to stop. I mean, of course he was right. Even Joe Rogan was like, that's the only answer. Not exactly a concern. It's the only answer. But for the media, that wasn't enough. Because Ukraine has become the new religion of the left. Right? It started off with climate change for a while, led by Lord Priestess Greta Thunberg. Oh, yes. A brilliant scientific mind. Definitely not a child that's been used. He went to, Fauci. He became the high priest of the media and the left. Beyond reproach. It doesn't matter that he lied to the American people and lied about everything. They're like, how do you know he lied? I go, because his emails to his colleagues that we've all seen are exactly the opposite of what he told the American people. One of them is a lie. Two opposite things cannot hold true at the same time. I don't think that's physically possible. And yet it didn't matter. And it's now moved on to Zelensky. Trump was the guy that was supposed to start all these wars, but strangely enough, Russia didn't invade any of their neighbors under Trump. China wasn't flying sorties over Taiwan. They certainly weren't threatening America like Iran has, and when they did, they paid consequences. That was, remember the outrage in the media? Like, you're not allowed to do that. It's like, you mean a general shows up in a foreign land where it looks like they're trying to invade our embassy? The guy has been the architect of every terror attack on U.S. troops in Afghanistan and Iraq with IEDs for them. We know this for a fact. He's probably not there for humanitarian purposes. Just going to go out on a limb here. And rather than start an entire war with Iran, they take out the guy that's actually the troublemaker. And that wasn't good enough for them, right? So guys, what we need to do is we need to get back to some common sense. It's not that hard. But no one's, well, no, it's still not that hard. You're right. I mean, you'd be surprised because people in Washington are not capable of doing that. But it's because they're not willing to do it. Right? The weak Republicans you see in Washington that vote with the Democrats every time because they understand that it's easy existence to actually be a Republican in Washington. You can be one as long as they know you will fold when it matters. You can speak to, the average Republican group in the country is a group of 3 or 4 people. And you can speak to those people and tell them what they want to hear. But as long as he does the opposite when it matters, you can even vote Republican like 85% of the time. But you got to fold on their issues, and they do every time. Everyone. There's not many. By the way, there's a lot. Listen, it's true on that one, but there's a lot that on paper, they look a lot better than when you actually look at their voting record. There's guys that do that very well too. Again, they're more vocal about telling you what you want to hear, but they don't actually always do that. So we need to get that resolved. We need people to become unafraid. The way to do this is we have to start actually talking about it. We have to have people understand exactly what it is. In a state like this, I get it. Trust me, no one understands more than me. Maybe my dad, because they want to lock him away for 1,000 years. And or the death penalty. He's a young and vibrant guy. But 1,000 years is a long time. It's probably, that may be too much for him. But again, for what? Like fake insurrections, the first unarmed insurrection in the history of the world. And it doesn't matter, right? Now, when they do show up armed and loot Seattle and Portland, and they take over courthouses, or they occupy buildings, or they pull, you could be in Congress and you could disrupt proceedings by pulling firearms, and the same thing they charge. There's people doing 20 years for what someone's going to pay a $100 fine for. So if you still think there's equal justice on the law, you have not been watching. There was a gentleman in this room earlier, actually, because when we talk about just how far it's gotten, is he still here? We talk about
School board ad.
Concerned mothers have been labeled domestic terrorists. Domestic terrorists, because they go to a PTA meeting and don't want their children to be indoctrinated with bullshit. Right? They don't want to be told that they're the worst human beings ever created simply because they happen to be born white. I mean, not that they had any say in the matter, or other lies, or having some rainbow-haired teacher convince a 3-year-old that they're trans. That child cannot make a decision for themselves for another 15 years. They couldn't buy a pack of cigarettes, but if you want to mutilate your body permanently, get on drugs that have incredibly high recidivism rates and then high suicide rates because people realize what they've done. We're going to let a 3-year-old make that decision. We've lost our minds. Well, where is the gentleman there was a gentleman here earlier that was said he was visited by the FBI because he literally showed.
That's me.
Because he showed up to a PTA meeting and was just concerned about literally indoctrinating our children with Marxist leftist bullshit. Think of how insane that is. Now, you know who the FBI is not focused on?
Terrorists.
Terrorists! How about, has there been a shooting? We had a shooting this week in Maine. And as always, never fails. He wasn't on our radar. Now, he was on their radar, but they were too busy chasing down your grandmother who happened to be within 1,000 miles of Washington, D.C. on January 6th. So the guy's been in and out of mental institutions, jacked up on drugs, on watch lists, not able to own firearms, but they're not actually watching him, just like they're not watching the black supremacists who drove through, remember the Christmas parade in Wisconsin? Oh, it was incredible. It was the first time a vehicle by itself drove through a crowd of people at a Christmas parade. That's what we were told by the media. Remember that one? A vehicle drove through, killing people. It just drove itself like someone forgot to put the parking brake on. That's how bad we've been lied to. So what we need to do is we need to be able to talk to people about how ridiculous this is. The examples of what we're talking about now. Just look at the success. Like I said, if I feel it, they do it, it's always the economy, but there's so much more at stake right now. You want to send your children to die in the Middle East because someone wants to start another war and a couple guys want to get their board seat at Raytheon, a couple generals who've been pushing the trans agenda in the military, they can't get their recruitment numbers up, so well, yeah. Someone said something funny on Twitter the other day, it was sort of interesting. We're going to war because it's the first time in about 10 years that they've seen Army recruitment videos that actually feature white guys again.
Yeah, right.
No, it's sort of funny, right? It's like, they've been pushing the trans thing, and you see, every woman in the world has been in every Army recruitment video. It was like the old Army recruitment video from like a year ago, remember? It started off with a girl with 2 moms from San Francisco. Not that there's anything wrong with that, folks, okay? But give me a break. This is probably not how we're going to win wars. Right? It was like the CIA video that came out at the same time recruiting. Remember that guy? The CIA did a recruitment video, and it was touting a guy with extreme anxiety. I have extreme anxiety! I basically couldn't function, and the CIA was very welcoming to me. I'm saying, I don't know. Feel bad for the guy, but probably not who I want on the front lines of our intelligence community. When China captures that guy, they're going to break him in less than 1 second. Put the over-under at 1 second. I'm taking the under. What are we doing? We're not serious. So we need to be serious, but we can't do that by ourselves. We've seen it. If you put out one guy by himself, they'll take him out. They did it to my father. Right? The most powerful guy in the world on pay, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's what we're up against. You've seen the weaponization of our government against individuals. You've seen it against your friends. You've seen it to people going to PTA meetings. You've also seen the exact opposite and the lack thereof in terms of enforcement on the other side, whether it's the Summer of Love riots of 2020. Mostly peaceful protests. There happens to be a few buildings burning in the background. I'm sure that's a coincidence. The reporter's telling the story about how it's mostly peaceful. He said, hit the head with a brick. No. It's just about social justice. They really needed the Gucci purse that they stole from them.
Yeah. They're gonna eat
They
it.
were going to feed themselves. Eating a leather purse, apparently. I can't make any sense of it, but I imagine if I can't, no one else can. But we have to have that conversation. We have to have it out loud. We have to be unafraid. Everything that they've done, whether it's to my father, my family, everyone else, it's designed to put you in a corner. They want you to curl up in a ball and die. That is their win. They want you to think that it's hopeless. They want you to think there's nothing you can do, but you can. But you're not going to get anything done if you hide in that corner. You're not going to get anything done if you're afraid to actually be vocal. They cannot cancel 150 million Americans. They may try. But they can't do it. They can't cancel one. If we all sit there behind one person and hope that it works out for them, test the wind, see what's going on, they can do that. We all got to go. So I really appreciate you guys being here. Really, thank you, man. Thank you. Really appreciate everything you guys are doing. You have the best to do this. Thank you so much again to everyone for having us here today. And let's keep fighting and let's win and save our country.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Mr. Donald Trump Jr.